Hey guys, and welcome to a very special episode of Raptor Roundup. Special mainly because it is the first, but also because it is, at least for now, the closing chapter on my Brace Yourselves RE Remake Raptor review series. Savvy gaming YouTubers who've been following that franchise for decades naturally have a very specific perspective on it, and that is why I was very happy to bring my own different spin to it and exclusively play its installments leading up to RE4 chronologically and in their most recent iteration. This led to 5 short and meticulously edited comedy reviews, which of course you are most welcome to check out. But sometimes when you're trying to be quick and funny, a lot of thoughts land on the cutting room floor. Which is why we're here today, to sit back, relax, go for a walk together and take a little look back at the road so far.
Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are.
Resident Evil 0.
RE0 definitely is the black sheep of the family. In a franchise that seems so keen to always evolve and try new things, it literally seems like a step back from the original Resident Evil, bar the fact it had this weird 2-character mechanic. Simply the fact that you start in a train, then crash the train and almost magically end up in yet another creepy mansion should raise some eyebrows. You can almost hear the conversations back at Capcom headquarters. I want you to just make Resident Evil 1. Sir, we already made Resident Evil 1. Just make it again. So, with a creepy mansion? Yes, but wait. Put some filler at the start so nobody notices. Like what? A creepy apartment building? I don't know, just make it a bus or train or something. Still, credit where credit is due. RE0 is quite pretty for such an old game, and it definitely also has its creepy moments. There are these tentacled leech zombies that appear out of nowhere with some creepy music, and those were definitely good for a fright or two. Sadly though, because they were very hard to kill, it was way easier to run around and ignore them, and that's always a valid option. Immersion just kinda gets messed up, you know? AI back then also wasn't the best, so you simply end up exploiting the heck out of it, and that just makes the weird leech zombie monster embarrass itself, right? On top of it, the fact remains that the early Resident Evils weren't proper action games, at least not to modern sensibilities, but way more explorative and puzzle-focused. Especially with a mouse and keyboard, the tanky controls were a pain in the butt, depending how agile your enemies were. Especially dogs and birds were just painstakingly hard to kill, and even if you killed them, they hardly ever yielded any kind of reward, so why even bother? The game was also plastered with a plethora of mutated boss monsters, but they all appeared out of the blue and never had any significance to the story. And that actually might be the difference between 0 and RE1's bosses. In RE1 you keep exploring and find bosses who are stationary in their own habitat. The shark in the water, the killer plant under the house. But here, you just get attacked out of the blue by a scorpion who jumps through the roof of a train, or a bat that lives in a cathedral? But I guess that's not weird, given the fact that the story overall didn't really make a whole lot of sense. So, we are in the house of the guy who invented the virus, and he died, but he didn't, and then he did. Or did he? It's all very confusing, and even looking back, I don't know what certain characters were doing there and what their purpose was. That Billy dude that we were playing never shows up again in later games, and close to the end of this game, we meet some guy with a mustache, and I thought that would be a clever tongue-in-cheek reference to a follow-up game, but now, having played a good deal of them, I still don't have a clue who that was. All in all, I have to say that playing Resident Evil 0 back then left me entirely unimpressed. A feeling that only got confirmed when I played all games that would chronologically succeeded. So, yeah, to everyone who thinks about playing it, just play Resident Evil 1 twice.
Resident Evil.
Now this was a game I could get behind. And hey, maybe it was just because I learned what kind of gameplay I should expect from playing Zero before. But in the end, I'm confident that the real reason was that RE1's pacing and overall atmosphere were tighter, and the art design and fixed camera perspectives were dramatically superior and just prettier. It just does a stellar job maintaining suspense and dealing with the limitations of its combat mechanics. I mean, most bosses in this game can be killed without using one bullet. And still, or even because of that, they manage to become both enjoyable but also memorable. Even story-wise, Resident Evil 1 achieves a feat that should not be underestimated. Of course, the virus and its abominations are front and center, but alongside those, RE1 manages to introduce additional story threads like the traitor in the midst and the fate of poor Lisa Trevor to shed light on this mystery from different angles. After I played RE1, I finally understood what the big fuzz was about and how this franchise became the household name it is today. And as long as there's no faithful fan remake of 2 or 3 that would remaster them, but keep the old gameplay intact, this is the quintessential old school Resident Evil experience that sticks to the old mechanics, but still doesn't make your eyes hurt from squinting. Looking back, I definitely should have played this one first, because most mechanics were explained way better here than in Zero. I think in Zero I didn't even understand how to save at the start, and it is essential to manually save in these games, because if you don't, you might be in need of a saint-like patience to keep walking these same hallways over and over again, and to pick up the same junk over and over again. But I managed to finish a playthrough with Jill, and I was almost tempted to do it again with Chris Redfield. But I wouldn't give in to that kind of urge until
Resident Evil 2.
My RE2 Raptor review was titled The Remake That Might Be Best. And even after playing RE3 and RE4 Remake, I have to come back to this one and offer my praises. Resident Evil 2 Remake is still inarguably a Resident Evil title, as RE1 or Zero before. It was fascinating and thought-provoking, however, to engage with comments on this one, because starting with the RE2 make, one question becomes apparent. What should a remake do? I mean, if I see it correctly, the difference between a remaster and a remake is essentially that a remaster still exclusively relies on the original game's assets and enhances them. Better resolution, optimized sound and music, maybe add some code for quality of life improvements, while a remake essentially recreates a game from the ground up and has way more leeway to change anything for the sake of re-envisioning the game for a current audience. So this can lead to a Demon's Souls remake, which essentially is just a ground-up remaster from the original 2009 game, with no changes or improvements to the gameplay, but with a new score and with an entirely different engine to run on. Or it can lead to the more tongue-in-cheek kind of remake of a Final Fantasy VII, which has a new combat system, new game content, and which makes the fact that this game's story alternates from its original path a main plot point in itself. So what now about Resident Evil 2 Remake? Critics say it's great, the community was generally pleased. I mean, it is unanimously regarded as a good game. But is it a good remake? And would that actually be the best thing? I mean, what the RE1 remaster did was to improve the game's presentation but leave the gameplay intact and only add to the experience. Would this be a more faithful approach? And would that have been better? Or would it have only pleased longtime fans but alienated new audiences? The responsibilities and expectations that accompany the remaking of a game are fascinating to me, and I would love to at some point explore them more in depth. What do you guys think about it? I'd love to hear your opinion, especially after all this RE remake madness. For now, my thoughts on it are simple though. If a friend asked me which game they should play to get the quintessential Resident Evil experience, I would tell them to play Resident Evil 2 Remake. It just combines all the qualities of the franchise in one package. We have a vast, non-linear area to explore, and the question if we should allow ourselves to engage in combat is an omnipresent one. And we do mix it up and explore different areas later on. We have an unkillable foe chasing us, long enough for it to be counted as a cool gameplay mechanic, but it's not like the game's whole plot hinges on it and it overstays its welcome. And we do have beautiful graphics and a modern but fitting third-person shooter gameplay style that makes it way more approachable than earlier installments. I know I gave RE2 a hard time for its scenarios and how you essentially have to play it 2 times to get the proper experience, but at the end of the day, the classic Resident Evil formula this title still bites to does encourage several playthroughs anyhow. Way more at least than the next installments do. For example,
Resident Evil
3. Why doesn't it say the number? I don't get it. I mean, I had this whole concept. Okay, never mind. I do stick to my stance on this one. After playing Resident Evil 2 2 times, I was definitely ready for a more linear, fast-paced spin on the formula. And of course, the short runtime wasn't that bad either for me to churn out those videos. And that, Resident Evil 3 definitely delivered. So, if you have played RE2 Remake and you liked it, should you play this one, you should have a pretty good time. However, the big question should be if we want to support such utter mishandling of a remake in any capacity. Often, when there is a botched remake or reboot of something, people will tell you it's not like the original is gone, just play or watch that. But the undisputable fact is once a franchise is rebooted, remade, or also adapted into movies or television series or whatever, there won't be a new attempt at it for a long time. And if that crucial attempt is botched the way they botched RE3, it is justifiable for fans to be disappointed. And developers have to be made aware of that responsibility and held accountable for ignoring it. Long story short, even if RE3 Remake is a nice addition to playing the RE2 make, and is both graphically but also acoustically quite pleasant, this was actually the one RE installment where I stopped and noted that the soundtrack slapped hard. On a higher level, if you have the future and prosperity of video gaming as a whole in mind, this game might just not deserve our support. What do you think? Is that too harsh? With all this AAA microtransaction and games as a service BS that plagues our industry, I often have to ask myself, where do we as consumers have to draw the line? Well, I guess buying disappointing games for a nickel is fine, as long as we don't pre-order them for horrendous prices, right? We should pay that kind of money for games that deserve it. Like
Resident Evil 4.
Thank you. I was frankly astounded to not stumble across one video that dissected this remake on its own merits, and without constantly referencing the original. I actually almost played the original Resident Evil 4 7 years ago. I had it installed on my laptop and had the first cutscene playing, but I just got distracted and never opened it up again. I think this was around the time I had another Pokemon high, and it was right before Pokemon Sun and Moon came out, so all of a sudden I desperately wanted to catch a Phoebus or something. You know how that goes. But yeah, this led to me never playing Resident Evil 4 until this fateful March 2023. And I tried my best to describe it in my Raptor review. This game should be, and I'm sure it was to many, the blueprint on how to make an action game. I can almost smell the chalk on the blackboard where they pinpointed each level's individual gimmick. Is gimmick the right word? I don't know, I don't want to downplay it. What I mean is, it seems obvious that variety between levels and enemies was a key component to Resident Evil's development process. Yahtzee Croshaw from The Escapist, who's amazing, said the Resident Evil franchise has a lot of great bosses, and they're all in Resident Evil 4. And there definitely is truth to that. With each singular fight, we are thrown in vastly different environments and are challenged in a unique way. And in a way, this seems so easy to make, right? I mean, it's not like every boss has like 3 to 4 different stages and a huge arsenal of attack patterns, just that we have to approach them slightly differently every time. So with one we're on a boat and have to throw harpoons and dodge rock formations, and with the next one we might have to activate trapdoors, or we can only fight with our knife, or mustn't make a sound, or we have to take care not to activate the boss's traps, and the list goes on and on. And Resident Evil 4 makes it feel so easy. And as it seems, the remake also hit all the right spots, making the girl less annoying, fleshing out the characters, getting rid of the cooties. The only thing still kinda messing with me is the unexplained presence of the merchant and this underdeveloped bug boss we have to run away from. So I could kill this guy, but if I don't, he never appears again. Did the elevator break and so he was stuck on the ground floor? It's just kinda weak. I have to confess, me personally, I'm more the action RPG, Mass Effect, The Witcher kind of guy. The whole horror genre I dabbled with, playing iconic atmospheric shooters like BioShock or Fear, but I would never say the Resident Evil games, or RE4 in particular, are right up my alley. I wouldn't ever say it is my favorite game or one of my favorite games now, but still, I will tell you in a heartbeat that it's a near perfect game. And if you are a gamer, you owe it to yourself to have played it. That's just how well crafted it is. It transcends personal bias. And that'll be all, folks. So, very easy. In conclusion, the Resident Evil remakes and 0. What can I say about them? 0. Don't play it. RE Remastered, the quintessential old-school Resident Evil experience. Resident Evil 2, the quintessential modern Resident Evil experience. Resident Evil 3, whatever. And Resident Evil 4, just play it. That's non-negotiable. So thanks for hanging out, folks. I wanted to try something more chill this time around and let my mind wander about these games. I mean, that's also what games are about, right? To make us think about why we play and what they are and what they could be. This, by the way, is also my 100 subscriber celebration video, so thank you to all the crazy people who joined the Raptor Pack. We're in this together now. Still, this is a brand new endeavor to me, so I am very grateful for any support and feedback to make this channel more awesome and create pieces that I enjoy making, but also especially that you enjoy watching just as much. Looking forward to hearing from you. Special big thanks to the YouTuber Doodlebob, who graciously let me use his Resident Evil LoFi Remixes for this video. One of them is playing right now. They truly do sound amazing, and he's got a lot of other great stuff on his channel, so please do check it out. Next, I will be tackling the new Star Wars and Zelda games, so everybody who joined me on my Resident Evil journey, I hope you'll be up for some strange waters. Rest assured though, that Resident Evil isn't going anywhere, because this franchise, fittingly, seems to never die. So, yeah, see you soon with Fallen Order, and in a not too far away future when it's time again for Resident Evil. Bye.